couple of clicks to bring my screen up, but I will say as I'm doing that, everyone please feel completely free to interrupt me. Please ask any small or big questions that you have. All questions are good questions, okay? So let me hit the present screen back here. Let me hit it over here. And I'll pull our chat up too, just to make sure I see all the questions. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see my screen. I'll wait to make sure everybody's good. Okay, thank you, Michelle. All right, beautiful. So as Shay mentioned, I am the founder of Blaze Group, and Blaze means building leaders and accepting zero excuses. We do that first by making sure that anybody stepping on our turf is really here to edify us, right? Really here to go at the pace and the deep level of understanding that is required to edify Black women entrepreneurs. But then it's a standard we hold ourselves to, because this is scary. Entrepreneurship, leadership, showing up in the world as a Black woman is gut-wrenching at times. And so we hold each other's hands to make sure that we know that no matter what, right, slow pace as it may be, we'll rise as leaders together. And today we're talking about AI. My handle on everything is I am Casey Ariel, including LinkedIn. So if you want to connect, I hope you do. Please feel free to connect with me offline. And as I dive in, the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you about AI is because I've gone on a couple of journeys in my lifetime. Okay, I grew up in South Carolina, Gadsden, South Carolina, to be exact. And my goal in life was to be as close to perfect as possible. That's how I started off my life. I was a valedictorian of all of my grade school. I went to college, and I went to Charlotte to work at the Bank of America headquarters for the CFO group. And I was trying to be as perfect as possible. I married my high school sweetheart, trying to be as perfect as possible. And one day, I found myself on the floor, almost about to lose my life. Right? My perfect, painful, isolating experiences led me to a moment that was pivotal for me. And for the first time in my life, a lot of things flooded to me, honestly. I thought about my mother, who never made it out of her apartment complex one day at 21 years old when I was 1, right? I thought about my big mama, who is my great grandmother, who always laughed about her shooting Big Daddy in the butt, and the bullet was still there because, you know, he beat on her and that was gonna be the last time. And it was funny until I found myself on that floor, and I vowed to myself that if I made it out of that house alive that day, that I would bet on me, that I would give up the cloak of perfection and I would bet on me. And that journey took me to the Bay Area, where I started structuring multi-billion-dollar loans for large tech corporations. It took me to Africa, where I spent 3 years finding freedom and structuring solutions for unbanked Black folk on the continent with $40,000 loans, you know. And with Hello Tractor, I gave out $10 million across Kenya and Uganda and Nigeria to folk who don't even have a bank account, right? Because it's time to re-engineer access in this lifetime. And so many other things. So you see their logos, but at the end of the day, journeys got me here. Choosing to bet on myself, and then bet a little more, and then bet a little more, and bet a little more. And at the top of last year, I decided to give up coaching, to give up a lot of manual edification of Black women entrepreneurs, and to lean into AI, to make a bet that we could be at the front of the line of this thing. And so thank you for being a part of this journey. Please do use the chat, okay? Interrupt me, come off of mute, raise your hand. I can see all of that on my end. Make sure y'all still with me. Okay. I see you, Michelle. I see you. Alim, if I'm saying your name incorrectly, my apologies. What a testimony. I appreciate your disclosure. Michelle, thank you so much for holding space. Raphael, yes, right? Like, that is what brought us here in this moment. And so as I go through this material, which will not be rocket science at all, I want you to fully be yourself, like find yourself in this context, in these stories, right? So that you can make the same bets in your life that I've made in mine. So let's start with it, okay? AI is here. And unlike the way we might have imagined it before, it is not this like sci-fi thing that's out in the galaxy and so irrelevant that we don't care about it. It is actually transforming the way that we live today, right? It is not, it doesn't have anything to do either with robots taking over the world. It has everything to do with us simplifying our life and choosing ease over hardship. So I want to know in the chat, how familiar are you with AI? Put a 1 if you are completely green and you like, child, I've avoided it until today. Put a 5 if you're very familiar and you coding over there. I want to make sure I understand where to start. Okay, beautiful. So Julie is familiar, Raphael is familiar, Ryan is familiar. Beautiful. MBAA is a 3. Kayla is a 3. Okay, we've got a lot of 3s. Michelle and Michelle are 3. Okay, 3 and 4. Okay, beautiful. So it's super helpful. So nobody that's completely green. So we can really dive into some things today, but we're not necessarily building the bots. Okay, perfect. All right. So let's demystify it a little bit and let's make it very practical. I need to move my screen some, boom. Okay, I can't see y'all anymore, but come off of mute if you need anything. So to start, AI is just technology that trains computers to mimic human intelligence. That's all AI is. It is engineered intelligence, and they're trying to get AI to behave as we do, right? So if we think about smart home assistants, we can think about Siri and the way we say Siri, and she'll say, uh-huh, right? That's AI. They're trying to get her to mimic human intelligence. Alexa does the same thing. When we say, Alexa, order me deodorant again, because they've engineered human intelligence, Alexa probably won't say, what is deodorant? She'll probably say, do you want to use the same brand you bought from Amazon last week, right? That is artificial intelligence, mimicking human intelligence. Another example would be recommendation algorithms. So the best sites, the best shopping sites, they already know what we like, and they're pushing that stuff at the top of the screen when we come on, right? They know the colors, the silhouettes, right? That is artificial intelligence, tracking our patterns and behaviors and going deeper and deeper into understanding us. Netflix is the same way. It is very unlikely that Netflix will ever recommend a Western to me when I open the app. Right? It knows that I love the dramas. It knows that I love the tearjerkers, etc. Right? It is mimicking human intelligence. Image recognition software is AI. So you have a lot of nature lovers today, and let's say plant enthusiasts, people with green thumbs. That is not Casey, okay? But they're able to use PlantNet, an app that lets them take the picture of a leaf, right? And it can tell them what disease the plant might be suffering with, or it might say, this is overwatered. Do this to get the limpness out of it, right? And make sure y'all are with me. Are y'all familiar with some of these examples? Do you use it today and because y'all are 3s and 4s, I imagine that you do, right? Self-driving cars are similar as well. I love that app. Oh, we have a green thumber in the house. Okay. But autonomous vehicles, right? Like cars that recognize patterns and signs and like speed and all of that, that is artificial intelligence. I'll use Blaze Group as an example, right? Our bot is named B, and I am engineering her intelligence. I'm training her intelligence to be reflective of Big Mama, literally, right? The goal is for us to be able to say one day, B, who are your people? And she knows what we're saying. She's not saying what people on what continent. She's giving last names, right? And regions, right? But quite literally in business, right? When we are giving examples, we're not calling on Warren Buffett and what he did. We're not talking about Trump and what he did. We're talking about the little girl that went to school with the Kool-Aid and the sugar in the Ziploc bag. And she tells a price, right? What were her input costs? We're talking about the freeze cup lady down the street, right? Where we could take a nickel and come back with our friends with the styrofoam cup. Right? It is just mimicking human intelligence. That is all AI is. Michelle says, say it. Listen, that's where we at with it, right? So we have that understanding, which lays a groundwork for all that comes next, okay? And again, and y'all are doing this already, right? Julie said, I'm familiar with the commercial concepts of it, right? Michelle said, I'm familiar with everything you're sharing. I want you to ground yourself in this deep enough that by the end of this, you might have the audacity to say, I'm gonna pick something up, right? But we'll get there. Thank you, Michelle. I said freeze cup. We had the freeze cup lady. All right. So let's make it even more practical, right? Let's go inside of your career, your 9-to-5 jobs, right? Your skyscrapers, wherever you work, right? And know that AI can give you a superpower. It can put your dopeness on steroids. And backbreaking work is not the price of admission for our dreams. I'm gonna say that one more time for all the Black women in here. Backbreaking work is not the price of admission for all of your dreams, sis. So please lean into AI to do what you do easier, faster, more cheaply, right? And you have extra time to eat ice cream and kiki with Netflix, right? So some of the benefits. Resume screening is very, very popular now. So much to the point where if people don't use the keywords from the job requisition that they're applying for, their resume will never be seen by a human. Why? Because bots now take resumes, they scan it, they scan patterns, they calibrate on their own, and they actually recommend to the hiring manager who to sit down and talk to. Folks are not licking their thumbs anymore, going through piles, getting paper cuts, right? Trying to cipher through everybody that applied, right? Automated scheduling of meetings and tasks. That is happening today. I'll give a couple of apps y'all can use for this, but you have AI right now that basically syncs to your calendar to become your AI virtual assistant, where they see your patterns of meetings, they see your patterns of when you eat, they see your patterns of these days are very dense, right? And they'll actually start, I don't want to make it sound like they're going to debo you, okay? But they will actually start blocking time off on your calendar and say, actually, you're too busy, sis. You actually need to think these 3 days. You need to carve out more time for sleep on these days. Let's say no to this meeting, right? There's an app, it's called Motion, that does this today. It can generate reports and analysis. I'll give you some very real examples of that. Julie said, it is coming to my job. Ashe, yeah, it is. It is. And we're going to get into those things. If y'all want to talk about it at any time through this, we need to, because there's fear and anxiety around this stuff too. But AI is here, okay? Raphael said, just use AI. Go up. Just use AI for my transition resume from healthcare to tech. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Bravo to you, sis, because that is so practical and real, right? I went to learn how to use Zapier and turn around. I went to learn how to use Zapier. I like Zapier though, sis. We gotta talk. Y'all gonna come off of mute today. Yeah, I like Zapier a lot, but let's talk about it. So, activity for you all. What is one repetitive task in your career that you love an AI tool to help you with? And it does not need to sound grandiose, like for real. Like, what are the things, as I talk about executive assistants and resume scanners, people popping stuff on your calendar where you need to have it, generating reports and analysis, right? What are some of the things that you wish an AI tool could take off of your hands today in your 9-to-5? So I appreciate your brilliant relatability. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you for holding space for me. I'm in y'all's house, so thank you so much. Automation and reporting. Beautiful. Automation and reporting. Let's double click on that. Emails. Love that, Ingrid. Thank you so much. Attending meetings. Oh, this is good, y'all. Attending meetings. Michelle says weekly class content and monthly newsletter. Beautiful. Client progress notes. Michelle said client progress notes. 100%. Y'all not gonna believe me, but 100% of what was said already, I'm gonna repeat it back. Automation and reporting, emails, attending meetings, weekly class content and monthly newsletter, client progress notes. 100% of these things exist today with AI, and it is not expensive. 100%, right? There are tools today that will write your email for you. There are tools you can integrate with Gmail today where all you got to do is type 2 words and it'll recommend the rest of the email based on the reply you're giving or based on what you want to send, right? So love this. And just me telling you that this stuff exists hopefully opens your eyes and your ears. It's kind of like when you buy a red car and all of a sudden all the cars on the road are red. It's like, when did that, you know? You'll notice and hear these things. Profile pictures, background AI. Love that. Profile pictures, background AI. So guess what, y'all? Y'all have already seen a couple of AI images already in this presentation. Would you believe that? Yeah. So the profile pictures, background AI, yeah, can definitely do that. I love that. Okay. So good. But all of these things do exist. And if you have questions around how and how practical it is, like write that down because we're gonna have time for Q&A in this, okay? All right. So AI for your side hustle. And when I say side hustle, I'm saying you working your 9 to 5, right? But because you love some things, you're passionate about it, you either hobby it out on the side or you're trying to make a little bit of change on the side, right? AI can help you monetize those passions. So think about market research and customer insights, right? Instead of you spending hours and hours and months trying to gather enough data with the 2 hours you spend per week, you can leverage AI to get tons of information that is factual and based on millions of inputs, right, around your industry. A person in the Blaze Group app about 2 weeks ago, her name is Becca. She said, B, I'm in the water industry. Let me tell y'all right now, if Becca ever asked me anything about the water industry, I would tell her, baby, I am so sorry, but please find some blogs, right? That's the best we could do, right? Be responding to her with the most current trends where people are paying the most for, right? The things that are hot topics in politics, etc. And she was so happy because she was doing some launches that hit about 75% of those things, right? AI can help you with that. And that conversation, I'm sure it took 2 minutes, right? Content creation. So images, videos, blog posts. I mentioned to y'all already that AI can do it, right? Let me go back to the first slide just because, right? That is AI. She's AI. She's AI, right? So think about all of the times that we've said like Canva doesn't have enough Black folk. We don't have to worry about that anymore, right? That's obviously me, right? But she's AI, right? This lady, I want to mimic the people who have green thumbs because it's not me. This is AI, right? So yeah, all of these things can happen. Social media management, so scheduling your posts, recommending times that you should post, etc. Customer service chatbots. Some people wanted to be able to take client progress notes. AI does that today. Okay, AI can actually be your chat bot, right? And you can tell it what tonation to have. You can tell it whether it be lengthy and responses or very straight to the point. Yeah, I know y'all's customers, so you know which one they want, right? And they will not only answer direct questions, they'll give strategic recommendations based on your other products and offerings. They'll send you a summary of everything that was said so you know what's, hot in the market. Like this stuff exists today, right? Shay says, what are some AI tools for generating images and presentations? Yeah, so my favorite is called Midjourney. And I'll have that link. We're going to talk about that today, but it's called Midjourney. I'll expand on that a little bit in a couple of minutes because of the warm tonation, like the warm tones and hues. But Bing has one. You can put in Bing Image Creator, and it does some pretty good stuff on that side as well. Also created entire website, 3 pages with AI under 30 minutes with my edits. I'm gonna read that again. Raphael said, also created an entire website with 3 pages with AI in under 30 minutes with my edits. This is real stuff, right? Speaking of websites, I'll show you where ChatGPT is, but whatever AI tool you want to use, ChatGPT is free. You could actually give it your website link and say, tell me my brand voice. It will scan your website. I'll tell you some of the things it says about our website. It'll scan your website and it'll say things like, it's inspirational, it's authoritative, it is, right? Like these things are so helpful in this side hustle thing, right? So you can see you, how people see you. All right, AI for business growth. So let's say you are 10 toes deep in it. You're standing on business, right? AI can be a game changer for that, especially in the early stages where you don't have money to hire. 98% of Black women-owned businesses have 0 employees, 0, right? So some of these benefits, hyper-targeted marketing campaign. So when I was working on the continent consulting my client who wanted to give $40,000 tractors to people with no bank accounts, right? We would use targeted marketing campaigns, right? People who are in agriculture, rain is very important. Rain dictates when you plant your seeds, when you till the soil, when you harvest, etc. We would tell the campaign for these regions, based on AI telling us that it is probably going to rain around this time, it'll probably be dry around this time. So only show the ads to these regions for tractor services around that time. And when I say we blew up, because it was a painkiller, not a vitamin, right? We were actually hitting the gunshot wound if they needed something really, really fast, not a nice to have, right? Predictive analytics for forecasting and decision making. This is different from automation. Automation will do what you told it to do. Artificial intelligence will tell you what you need to be doing. It's that deep, right? Identifying bottlenecks to increase efficiency. So think back on that example of Motion, the AI tool that tells you when you are really, really busy and it needs to recommend scheduled meetings or whatever, right? AI can do similar things with your tasks and tell you, hey, we're noticing these bottlenecks, or this is taking too much of your time, or this could be done more efficiently, right? They can serve as COOs for you, to be very honest. So in the chat, if you could, if you own a business, okay, tell me, how could AI make a difference? And I've seen some related to businesses. So some people have already said like creating content, writing email. So those are beautiful and that is applicable. Any other examples of how AI can help you in your business, especially if you're 10 toes in it and you're the chief everything officer? And if you don't own a business, I invite you to participate in this still, right? Just tell us, imagine you had a business. Like, let's say you want to be a podcast studio host one day, right? You want a brick and mortar. Like, how might AI help you in that? So Kayla says scheduling. I 100% agree. 100% agree. People on average waste 7.5 emails, according to Calendly. 7.5 emails to schedule one meeting. 7.5? Yeah, we're going to use the AI. Raphael says, just starting again. Beautiful. Congratulations. Using AI for fine-tuning my lead magnets. I love that. I love that. And you can. Client follow-ups and prompting. I love that. Absolutely. And there are tools. Even Grammarly will do it. We'll talk about that. But Grammarly is more than spell check like Word does, right? Grammarly can recommend your whole email for you. And you can say, yeah, do that. Thank you. HubSpot, if y'all use HubSpot, HubSpot is this client relationship management tool, right? Where you can put in email addresses and create email templates. HubSpot is connected to my Gmail and it uses AI and notices when I'm sending the same email to 3 people, by the time I'm starting that 3rd email, it says, Casey, do you want to turn this text into a template? And I say, oh, yes, I do. That is AI. That's not automation. I didn't set that up, right? Marion, thank you for chiming in, Marion. What's up, sis? She says content creation, yep, and the predictive analytics sound like a game changer for me. Yay, I'm glad it does. I have a case study on that. So I'll share that and I think you'll enjoy that a lot, Marion. Respond to clients by doing scheduling, accepting payments. Beautiful. Yep. I need to utilize AI to start the business. Come on, Asia. Yeah. Asia's a blazy too, y'all. Day one. Yeah, use AI to start the business. 100%. AI can create your slides, right? Let's say you're presenting somewhere. Just say, hey, I'm presenting about this. This is the target. Please create my slides for me. It'll tell you the pages. It'll tell you the text. It'll tell you the sub-bullets. It'll tell you what kind of imagery to use. And there are tools that actually make the whole slide for you. Okay. All right. So moving on. Okay. We cannot sit in here for Women's History Month and not talk about Black women making history in this space, because we are actually shaping this space as we speak. I want to start with Joy. So Joy Buolamwini, she is the founder of Algorithmic Justice League. I've been tripping over that word all day, y'all, but Algorithmic Justice League. She pioneered research exposing racial and gender bias in facial recognition software used by law enforcement. And because she exposed them and lit them up, humiliated them, okay, her work has now led to major companies like Amazon reevaluating their facial recognition technology and it sparked important conversation about fairness in AI. So when you hear these terms or when you hear these stories, because this was her, she said, your tool could not recognize my dark-skinned face, and it could not, because it was programmed to recognize light-skinned folks. It was programmed to recognize white folk, right? And she lit them up, right? She gave them research. She gave them data, because data drives non-emotional stories. You didn't have to live it if I'm showing you the data. And because of her work, we honor her. We pay homage to her. I'm in this community. Join this community. Oh, yes, I will remember this, sis. Yeah. Right? Because she opened her mouth and took up space. You now have huge behemoths that have changed their technology to recognize us. Monique said she read it. Beautiful, right? The next one I want to pay homage to is Kimberly Bryant. Love this sister. If y'all are not following her on LinkedIn, please do. Love her. She's the founder and former CEO of Black Girls Code. She scaled an organization dedicated to introducing young Black girls to coding and technology. Let me tell y'all something. We are in a war right now, an anti-DEI war right now. Just today, Kentucky banned DEI, okay? And everything across the state, right? But she did not worry about code switching. She did not worry about saying the term women of color. And no knock, we love all women, right? She scaled an entire organization that is widely known, dedicated to teaching Black girls how to code, right? And because of that, she has made space for you and I, right? We can see ourselves more than somebody would have seen themselves 10 years ago. I promise you that. I promise you that, right? And I'll say, huge nod to her because she was ousted from her company by her board unexpectedly. Okay, and this happened in the last 2 years. Nobody showed up in heavy droves to Cape Heart for this sister. Sam Altman, a man named Sam Altman, who is the founder of OpenAI, who created ChatGPT, he was, at the latter part of last year, ousted by his board unexpectedly. And there was a swarm of folk that came to his defense, so much so that they had to let him back in. Now, Kimberly is still the former CEO of this company. She's not back in it. She's started some venture capital funds and a couple of other things, but they did reach an agreement. But I say this story about these history makers because it is important, right? And they are doing the things first that so many come behind and do later. And we got to have the same audacity, right? Marion says, Alabama legislature is on their way to banning DEI. Yes, they are. And I'm actually sitting in Huntsville, Alabama right now with my family. Yes, they are. Baby, when I say we got to light them up, and we will, right? That is women's history. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Michelle says, phenomenal. Chat Black is excellent too. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, sis. DeSantis, listen. Rafi said, yeah, I'm in Florida. Hey, Rafi. All right, beautiful. So Lanta says, I remember when some of the motion sensors, i.e. in airport bathroom faucets, did not recognize dark skin. Talk about it. These are the practical applications of AI. This is why it matters. And if we do not lend our perspective, it will not change. Y'all are dope in here. All right, let's move it along. And I'm seeing the time. And I promise we're going to get through this, all right? One more success story I want to read, but this time I'm going to read all of this. And I want you all to sit with this. I want you all to sit with every single word I'm about to say from this amazing woman named Jessica O. Matthews. Follow her on LinkedIn. She's the founder and CEO of Uncharted. She had an interview with Afrotech. Afrotech stems from Blavity, an amazing firm created by Morgan DeBond. And she said, in the article said this, Matthews noted that there are people in AI who want people to be afraid so that they won't tap into the space and create their own positive impact. However, there is room for so many to thrive and better their communities. I'm gonna read that part again. There is room for so many to thrive and better their communities by using the tool to their advantage. I feel like when people say, oh, well, be afraid of it, it's going to take your job. What they're really trying to do is make you afraid of going behind the veil and wonder, why can't I be part of the team that's building this AI? Why can't I be part of the crew that's raising this baby? Matthews added, the last thing you should be afraid of is AI. This is now more than ever the time where you need to be incredibly excited about this tool, but you need to see this as a battle, and you need to do everything you can to get your hands on this weapon as well. Yeah, I'm gonna let us sit in that. Michelle said, yes, absolutely well said. Sadly, they don't get the recognition of not being in the curriculum in school. Yep, on the curriculum in school, yep. Sit with that. Because that means that we not only have an opportunity, we have a responsibility. Now I'm gonna move on, I'm not gonna preach, okay? We're gonna get to it. Now, I'm about to give y'all all the tools, but I already hear somebody fussing at me in the chat saying, Casey, can we have a list? Please, girl, can we have a list? So I gave you a list before I get into the tools, because I figured after the first one, y'all would be saying, Case, come on now. So if you scan this QR code with your phones, you'll go straight to the workbook. And the workbook actually has all of this content we've already gone over. So these definitions, these examples, right? It has all of that, but it's going to have all of these tools we talk about. Okay. So that is yours. Love y'all, and I mean it. Okay. And if you are fussing at me still and saying, Casey, I don't know how to scan a QR code now, I have the link that you can go to. It is blazegroup.io/AI. If you go to blazegroup.io/AI, the same workbook will come up. You're welcome, Ryan. Okay. So y'all have that. Now, let's still be here. I promise you it's all in there. But I did not want to distract you by wishing you had a list. Rafi says, Casey, you are truly the best always. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Asia. All right. So now that it's out of the way and y'all don't have to fuss at me, let's get into it. And this is the end, okay? We'll have time for Q&A. We have 45 minutes left, right? So I'll get through these things, and then whatever's on your hearts and minds, we can dissect it together, right? So practical, and I see your question, Lanza, I'll read it right after this. Thank you so much, sis. So practical AI tools. So everything listed here, okay, is super easy to use and super cheap to access. And some of them are free, literally, okay? So don't think that you have to be a programmer to do any of these. For 100% of what's listed on here, if you know how to use Google to search for things, you will be experts at using these things, I promise. And all of the links are included, okay, inside of that workbook that you now have, okay? It's 14 pages, so I got you. So ChatGPT is the one that is first up here. It is very commonly talked about, right? And because of what they've done, they made it easier for so many businesses behind them to come, right? So ChatGPT allows you to put in a prompt, right? You can say, hey, I want to understand the latest trends in the beauty industry around hair, right? And it'll give you information. It can solve problems for you, right? So I'll use my dad as an example. He trades stocks every day, okay? And my dad can take a screenshot of some charts with a bunch of colors and lines, and he can drop it in the ChatGPT and say, give me a summary. And it will say, these are the stocks represented, blah, 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 blah. Over the last 7 days, this particular stock has done X, Y, Z. It's likely due to blah, blah, blah. It will literally give you what you need. You can take a whole bunch of data and say, put this into a chart, a graph, a table, blah, 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 whatever, right? It does the thing, okay? So ChatGPT is amazing. It's a language learning model. Grammarly is another one I have here. So Grammarly goes beyond what Word has always done for us with spell check, right? And it actually gives you recommendations, right? It'll say, hey, you could sound friendlier if you frame it like this, and it'll flip your sentence for you. It'll say it's better if you get to the point faster for more clarity, and it'll chop your sentence in half, right? So many beautiful things, right? And so I actually, both of these, I use everything on this, but I use this every day. It's in my text messages, it's in my LinkedIn captions, it's in everything, right? And it allows you to come across more credible, more thoughtful at times, many times actually, because I'm pretty straight to the point when I write. It helps me sound more friendly. Most times I ignore those recommendations unless it's a new person, right? That might be a little green around what I'm talking about. And so that friendliness really matters so they're not intimidated, right? Grammarly pop-ups are annoying. Love that, Kayla. They are, especially the placement, because they cover important buttons. And that is a great point because we are still early. Somebody please drop in the chat early. It is still a builder's market, y'all. It is still a builder's market. They're still figuring out the kinks, and perfection did not stop them from launching. Perfection did not stop Blaze from launching. It should not stop you from launching. Motion for increased productivity. I've talked about motion a lot on this chat, in this conversation. So I've told you, right? It's your executive assistant. It can change your calendar. It can block out time based on your trends. It can tell you, hey, you're gonna be tired around these times. I think you've had enough, right? Motion is dope. Fathom is amazing. Otter has been really popular for following people into calls, into meetings, right? Somebody mentioned something about showing up to meetings when you're not there. Fathom can do that for you. Fathom will show up to a meeting. I mean, most times folks are in the meeting, but hey, you don't have to be, right? It will not only record the meeting, it will do a summary. When I say these summaries are so accurate, like the paragraph that it gives me after a meeting has all of the important notes, no matter if it was a 3-hour meeting or 30-minute meeting, that I can forward that to the folks who missed it, right? It gives you bullet points for deeper dives. While you're on a meeting, you can press a button so it remember that this was very important. So it'll save those 10-second clips for you to go back and digest that thing again. Super dope. Michelle says, how can I support your business? Sis, I'm gonna tell y'all, but Blaze Group is the biz, okay? I'll speed it up a little bit more. Midjourney is the tool I talked about today that can create those images, because somebody asked, right? How can I get images? This is my favorite because of the tone of the pictures. They are so beautiful and so moving. But there are many out there. Midjourney is free. Yeah. Okay. And if you want a lot more images faster, you can pay a little something, something, right? I think maybe like $4.99 or something. I pay a little something, something. Okay. Monique said, what are some good prompts for Midjourney? Yes. So a few things, right? If you say the word Black, it knows what you're talking about. So don't be afraid of that. You could say African American, but I usually say, like, show me a Black woman in her Brooklyn loft. I usually say locations because it takes literally, y'all know, like the exposed brick, like it will literally take, it will take the context of a place and shape an experience for you, right? So those are, I would say those are good prompts, right? And saying but it's usually just one line, right? Doing whatever I want it to do. Sometimes if I'll say, like, show me a woman from South Carolina walking through a field, because I know what I'm getting at, and they dress differently. It might be patchwork sundress, right? But just be yourself. Copy AI. Somebody said they wanted somebody to write emails, right? And social media content, right? Copy AI is great for that. It is amazing for that. Blogs, emails, marketing campaigns, research. For the consulting that I do, I use Copy AI a lot, and it gives me not only the research, but it gives me the links to a lot of these reports. Then I can go there and go deeper with graphs, etc. Right? Gemini. Gemini is not on this list. It's a new launch from Google. Okay, but they do the same thing as Copy AI, and it's free. Come on, somebody, come on, because Copy AI is not free. So if y'all want to test out Gemini, I think it's slightly even better right now than Copy AI because it's on top of the search engine. So they just know more, right? And then Blaze Group. Somebody asked about supporting Blaze. Definitely, I would say get the app, right? And even if you're not an entrepreneur, if it's feedback you want to give, right? My email works. I check it. I respond. I have meetings with folks, right? But this is the engineered intelligence around Big Mama, right? It is an AI business advisory solution for Black women on purpose, because I don't believe that Black women should have to be in masterminds 12 months out of the year. I don't believe we need to be in courses all year long, burnt out and waiting for deadlines and start dates. I believe that we deserve to go at a slower pace and snack on learning, and have somebody show up at 3 a.m. with us when our mind is racing. Somebody inside of the Blaze Group app asked a couple of months ago, how do I handle this business rejection? Because I keep trying in business. I keep trying, but the rejection is making me depressed. And they had like a 15-minute back and forth, and it was so deep. And B was talking about community. B was talking about get you a therapist, dog. B was talking about share your story with more entrepreneurs so that they can tell you, they can demystify this journey for you, right? So these are some examples. I won't be the dead horse. And I did tell Lance I was going to answer her question. So let me go back. I have not forgotten, sis. Let me just find it. Oh, y'all been chatting. Okay, I see it. For creatives, since AI is learning, yes, from how do you protect your intellectual content from being shared with others who are also polling AI? That is such a good question, Lanza. And I would say there is still a lot more work to be done around the regulatory environment around AI, because AI is, of course, being influenced by the other pictures they've already seen. It is, right? And I honestly don't believe that there is enough protections that exist because it's not regulated yet, right? Technology always moves faster than regulation. So, excuse me, I would say depending on what you're doing, right? Because depending on what you're doing, you'll have more or less leverage, right? So if you are, I'm going to use actors as an example, right? They went on strike. In terms of that strike, they were very specific. AI cannot make more than 5%. It was some low number, so low percentage of the script content, right? Like that is them forcing guardrails around this thing. AI cannot use our likeness, right? You cannot replace us with AI, right? And take our jobs, right? So when you have more leverage, right, you can negotiate in real terms. And I would say do it every time, right? Read those contracts every time. When you're using open systems like ChatGPT, like whatever you upload and say, hey, like change my wardrobe, that probably will be an impression somewhere else. Much like when you load a picture on your website, like everybody can find it, right? We can just search, like, I need a lady in a blue dress, and I might see your website picture. I hope that helps. But it's not a perfect science yet, right, in terms of regulation. Okay, so we're done with this slide. I do have all of this linked in your thing, right? And I want to make sure I can answer y'all's questions. So let me wrap up with a couple of quick things. Let me make sure everybody's good. Lanta said she's good. Okay, beautiful. Shay said that was exactly my question. Kayla says there was a story about a woman that found a cure for her sick son from AI. Ah, Shay, after doctors told her there was nothing they could do. Don't make me cry, Kayla. That is what this is about. Democratizing access, period. Gone are the days when a few lucky folk who got to be in rooms that we were not in have all of the access around. Gone are the days when encyclopedias held knowledge of the world, and at best in our country schools and gas, and we could get that information 6 years later. Gone are those days, right? It's just a beautiful story. Like I'm so happy to hear it, right? It is the reason why Blaze Group app is in 176 countries today. Like I need the woman walking around the village to have that dope fi-fi knowledge in her hand. Like I don't need her standing in line for that, right? Michelle says, I will recommend it to everyone and their mama. I just downloaded the app and sent out the recommendations to all my contacts. Bless you. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Shay said, I love that because I'm deaf up at 3 a.m. working. Yeah, it's like that. Blaze is a beautiful space. Thank you, Rafi. All right, beautiful. I agree with Ryan. The more descriptive you are, the more details and options you'll receive back. I agree 100%. And I would encourage y'all, as you're creating images, just see what it does. I used to come in there really prescriptive. I need her nails to be this color. I need her dress to be this color, you know, and guess it did it, right? But I learned to just like, let's see what you create. Now I'm talking about Midjourney, and it will always just blow my mind how we can dream about Black futures together, you know? All right, so last thing, wrapping up, okay? I hope this is helpful, and I'll give y'all plenty of time for Q&A. All right. So I want to give a case study, a very real case study, because 100% of the things we've talked about thus far, right, in terms of the easy things you can use, is about the back end stuff, which is very important. The efficiency, the streamlining, right, the taking it off your hands and outsourcing, right? But let's talk about you creating a product, much like I've created a product, right? You can actually do it without knowing how to code. I promise you that. And the example I want to give is how you actually create a voice bot, a voice AI bot that creates conversational experiences without knowing how to code. So for the last 4 years, like in the top of 2020, okay, VoiceFlow has been one of my favorite tools. VoiceFlow is a platform that is designed to help you build, okay, and launch conversational AI experiences. So inside of this tool, it'll let you drag and drop stuff. So if you know about Wix, some of you might know about Wix, where you pull in header, right? And then you just change the terms. You don't know what the coding is, but you know it's bold because you told it to be bold, right? And your website is out there, right? VoiceFlow is the same way. You could literally drag and drop the things you want to happen, right? The responses, the content, the pauses, the follow-ups in 2 days, whatever, right? No coding necessary. And you can create your own voice assistant. I'm not even talking about a chatbot, y'all. I'm talking about VoiceFlow can have you launching to platforms, right? So you can put the thing you built onto Amazon, and it will have your name on it. I promise it's that easy, right? Much like you can make a podcast today and it shows them on Spotify. You could do the same thing with it. And why not you, Black woman? Why not you? I say this to meditation instructors all the time. Why aren't you on Alexa? Why not you? Right? So it'll publish and distribute your bots for you. And then it's also great because you can prototype and test on the back end, right? You can actually do simulations with your teams or your cousins or your friend, whatever, right? And very low risk, very cheaply, just test out the things that you're doing to work out the bugs and just prototype it, bit by bit, and get that MVP out there, that minimum viable product. Not all the bells and whistles. Like what do we need this thing to do to work well, right? At the very minimum. So while it's not a language learning model, right? It's not the data that goes in to like make it all work, right? But it sits on top of a language learning model to be the front end, right? A front end product. So don't count yourself out, okay? Because coders can't necessarily make sexy products, right? Which is why Twitter is going downhill. All right, I digress. Okay, so now we're at the Q&A part, right? So if you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'll see if I miss anything in the chat, or feel free to redrop the questions. But just to recap on what we talked about today, you are early. You are early. You are early. You are early. It is the reason why Grammarly does not know yet to move the freaking bubble they have away from our arrows and importance stuff. It's so annoying. But I love the tool, right? So I encourage you to be curious and adaptable, right? And adaptability is so important for us Black folk, right? Because I'll tell you what, when the pandemic hit, okay, a lot of folks in our community still didn't have websites for their businesses. And so there was literally no way while they were sheltering in place to do business. And by the time we hit February and went to March of 2020, 48% of Black-owned businesses had to close their doors, and those doors have not opened back up. I get very sad every time I say this story because it goes to adaptability, right? Now, obviously, right, like some people have more means than others, but I'm talking about folk didn't even have an Instagram for their business. So there was zero way. There was zero way to engage with their folk and make money, right? So AI is no different. So just, be adaptable, be open, be curious. And I promise you, you'll get it. Takeaways, you can use it in your professional settings. We talked about how. The workbook reminds you of the how, right? It can be used in your side hustles. I'm not talking about a full-time commitment. I'm talking about like monetize that thing, monetize that hobby, right? You can have a research analyst without hiring one and be the best side hustler in your community, right? And they be like, how does she do all of that? Right? AI can be used for business growth. And so, when we think about predictive analytics, right, going deeper, I did promise someone I would give an example of predictive analytics. And I'm realizing now, Casey, where are you from? I heard Freeze Cup, and baby, I'm from the South. So I grew up in South Carolina. I have people in South Carolina and Alabama, and that's how we talk all day. And honestly, y'all, the journey from moving away from code switching, right, and just loving myself in my happy more deeply has been so liberating, right? Because by the time I told people at the top of this call, I know everyone has not heard my story yet, but how after experiencing domestic violence in my marriage, I fled to the Bay, and the way I was talking then, everybody would say, you came from Charlotte? You don't sound like it. And that was a compliment in their head. So, I was like, oh, thank you. I know how to code switch so well, right? But here we are, right? We back inside of my body, right? So thank you, sis. Okay, so we talked about business growth. I did not give God is amazing, Michelle. Yeah, I did not give the example I promised on predictive analytics. But that case study is inside of your workbook, and I'll gloss over it really quickly for the person that cared a lot about the predictive analytics piece. Okay. So the case study you'll see in your workbook is around Provenir, right? Which is a company name. It does not matter, right? The company's name is Provenir, but they help folk who are in kind of like that finance space. So you'll see now a lot when you do checkout, there's this buy now, pay later option, right? Buy now, pay later is everywhere now, right? Even if the company, most times in the company is not a financial institution, right? Provenir use AI to unlock that for most companies. So what Provenir does is they're able to, and they do a beautiful job at this, they're able to scan people's behaviors, like their patterns on like You know, are they paying their cell phone bills? Did fraud detection come up with anything on the background check? You know, what are their habits across the internet? You know, all these things that metadata can track. And it does all of that in a second. And that's why buy now, pay later gives you a decision that fast, right? There's no way that humans can do that fast. But because Provenir exists, right? Because what they're doing is they're giving companies predictive analytics. This person is 60% likely to fail in default. And different companies have different thresholds, just like the loan sharks in our hoods do, right? So companies can decide whether that's good or bad for them. So when I was on the continent, right, and I was dishing out, and we did it successfully, dishing out $10 million in capital to folk with no bank accounts, right? If they don't have bank accounts, they likely don't have credit histories. They did not have credit histories. They did not have credit histories. And so we work with Provenir to figure out, to engineer a new way, right, to predict the likelihood of their defaults. Does that make sense? Right. And so we could say, well, are y'all connected with the cell phone companies? Are they using mobile money to pay their bills on time? Right. We literally were able to engineer new ways, right, to predict the likelihood, because there was no trail, right? They had never had credit before either. We went a year after dishing out $10 million across Kenya, Nigeria, and Uganda. And let me tell y'all something. The repayment rate was 107% on a portfolio. Not even 100%. They paid back more than what they owed. It's that deep. It is that deep, right? And I designed it. I quit corporate and went over there and designed it, right? So take up space. Take up space. After we finished, banks were beating down. John Deere was beating down the door like, can we give you 3 million? Can we give you 5 million? You know. So that's an example. But Provenir is in the ROI, right? Because the interest was 14%. They pay back all of their interest plus some, right? All right, Black women are making important strides in this sector. So we talked about some history makers, right? We talked about 3 women who you can absolutely follow today. And I hope that you wrote their names down, because that is not in the workbook. Love y'all, mean it. But yeah, I just want y'all to try the tools. Like, just try something. Try something that you heard about today, right? It's low pressure. Nobody's watching you, but take up space. And then I mentioned Blaze Group a couple of times, but this is who we are, right? Blaze means building leaders and accepting zero excuses. We help Black women entrepreneurs learn at a very sustainable pace. But in this world, it's where education meets personalization, right? Like, you are somebody. You are not just a number, even though we're in 176 countries on that app, right? So in our app, we have a bot named B, right? You can talk to her and get answers in seconds. She gives business advice. We have a research report that is consumed by about 200 companies per year right now, and still growing, right? But the same data that fuels our work, right? The same Black narratives, rich Black narratives, contextualized Black statistics that fuel our work. It fuels a lot of companies out there too, and so we continue to push that out for us. And then this is sidebar from Blaze, but I'll be launching a 12-month corporate training program for folk who want to deploy capital the way I did it in Africa over in the States. So I'm training folks on how to be that innovative and audacious and pioneering in the financial capital world. So that's it. And I'm gonna be quiet now. Keep in touch with us, but definitely write your questions in the chat. Come off of mute. Shay, I'll let you moderate this part of it. I'll leave this screen up for a couple of seconds, but I can hear, right? And so I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'll look in the chat. Michelle says, and following you. Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I'm Casey Ariel Tobias over there, but if you put in the full URL, I am Casey Ariel is me on all platforms. That is Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I don't really post on Facebook though, but yeah, I am Casey Ariel on all channels. What else? Lancer said, this has been awesome. Good. I see your hands, Rafi. Shay said, what? What? What do you mean? What's the what? Oh, maybe the 107% repayment.
Yes.
Yay. Yeah. Unbanked people with no bank account. It's deep, right?
I was like, what?
It's deep. 10 million. Yeah. Sign me up and following you. This has been awesome. Do you recommend? Okay, we have a question from Alim. Alim says, do you recommend any courses or certifications to learn more about AI? Yeah, I would say what we use internally inside of Blaze is Udemy. Udemy has so many rich courses across anything. We are, including my dad, but we're currently in a Python boot camp right now. It's a 100-day Python boot camp, and I've loved it. Like, I've loved it. I've decided to get the enterprise package that gives like several seats, but they have consumer stuff too. But I'm all about like pacing yourself and making it sustainable, because I don't want us to kill ourselves, for this stuff. We're not running out of time. But Udemy, and as you're looking into this, Alim, I'll say there's so many subsectors in this space, right? So Python is about coding, right? And so it is teaching us how to build our own from scratch, essentially, right? You could get certifications in other things too, right? Because there's a front face to this, right? Like, much like somebody said earlier, I think it was Michelle, around Grammarly, the Grammarly pop-ups are annoying. That's not back end coding. That is the UI, right? That's the UX, the user experience, the user interface, right? And so we need those people in AI so that it simplifies our life, so that it feels good, right? Because smart people can make something that works, but it's so boring and bland that, so you could have UX courses, you can take UI courses, you can take low code, no code courses. Many of the things I sent y'all today, and I have, for those who are very like number 5 or 4 on the AI spectrum, I actually have listed some really good low code, no code tools for you to build your own language learning model that is not owned by anybody else, and nobody else will take your stuff. Right. I didn't get in that today because that's very deep, but I've given some recommendations for those tools as well in your workbook. Let's see, and I hope that helped, Alim. Lakeisha says, hello, I missed the meeting. Will there be a recording? Yes, it is.
Yes, yes, it is being recorded. And for those interested in Udemy, they actually give some very good trainings offered via LinkedIn. I actually just went through it, and I'm also a learning professional. So Udemy is a great resource for any level of learning AI. They have some really good trainings there.
I agree.
Just ask a quick question.
Sure.
I think you froze.
Those who may have challenges doing their of oops, are you hearing me?
I hear you now. It cut off though. Can you repeat
Yeah.
it again, Michelle?
Yeah, I think you froze.
Froze again.
About any platform.
Michelle, could you try typing it maybe?
Yeah, you're freezing.
Ryan says she received a UX cert. UX is user experience cert from and Figma is amazing. I double tap what Ryan is saying. Y'all, Figma is amazing. And so Figma is a tool that allows you to design what the thing looks like. Because code is not sexy. I'm talking about developers will make you something that works and it's a black screen and white letters just waiting. Like our Windows used to be. We logged onto the black screen and we had to know what dash to hit, right? Figma helps you design something that is innovative, that coders don't have to think about, and they just mimic what you said. So creatives, like y'all, would thrive in that space of UX.
Michelle's question came through. Would anyone recommend an AI format for academic writing?
Anybody in the chat want to come off of mute on that? While you are, I'm going to pull up some recommendations that I have over here. Okay. Just in case anybody's queuing something up in the chat, and Michelle, I know you can hear me. I know you can't come off of mute necessarily, but let me try to type it in the chat. So there are 3 groups that I would recommend that you join, sis. All Black community centered and into the documentation, writing, ethics, etc., policy around AI. I think you will find your people over there. So the first one is Algorithmic Justice League. And then let me Waiting room participants not in this meeting. Did that come through for y'all, what I just typed? Not writing the research paper. Wait, let me hit enter. Why is it not? Okay, it's not. Oh, I see why. Okay, here, I think it'll come now. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one. Data for Black Lives, DB4L. These are some groups that I like a lot and that I've started joining over the last year. Black women in AI. And I put this in here because these groups are so big and so hyper targeted in this space. You'll find your tribe in there, right? And they have community forums, they have meetings, they have, like ask this question in those types of rooms. And I'm sure you'll find folk, like real life folk to connect with. I would drop the actual links, but unless I put the HTTP blah 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 blah, it won't hyperlink for you anyway. Oh, formatting the paper. Okay, well that's way easier. Yeah. Okay. So Copy AI does a really good job with that. ChatGPT kills it. Okay. So if you go to ChatGPT, the company's name is OpenAI. So you'll have to go to OpenAI, their website, and then you just click the ChatGPT tool. Tell it how you want the paper to sound, like be very specific, right? Because you could say, create this paper or tweak this paper to be as aspirational as Oprah would sound, and it will give you that. You could say, tweak this paper to sound like Theodore Roosevelt. I promise, and it'll say the same thing, but the stylizing will be exactly what you're asking for. Something that's very common is, break this down so that a third grader understands it. It'll probably make it a little more lengthy, but it'll take all of your concepts and it'll know where to break out acronyms and where to go deeper and to give the history, right? But yeah, whatever specifications you tell it to do, it will do very, very well. ChatGPT will do it too, right? So don't get me wrong. I like ChatGPT a lot more for something like what you're talking about because it won't try to truncate my stuff. ChatGPT, I think they're trying to keep their costs a little low, so it won't necessarily go on for pages and pages and pages. But you can vacillate between either. I hope that helps. Thank you for explaining formatting the paper. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, cool.
My favorite, one of my favorite prompts for ChatGPT is make this more succinct.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite prompt.
It's real. And for those of you that lead like teams, maybe some of you lead divisions, maybe some of you lead like regions, right? Restructurings happen. I always tell people, take your behind to AI, ChatGPT, whatever else, and ask it, tell it the circumstance and ask it how to frame it, right? It can help you frame these things in ways that build morale, that, like so many things that you just might not think about. It can help you think of promises to make that are low-hanging fruit for you, but at least there's a trade-off in whatever you're about to say, right? Yeah, I just didn't mention that earlier, so I just wanted to say that like it works for like audible things too, so that you don't, because it's easy to come off, especially as a leader, y'all, to come off as cold and all these things in difficult situations that you have to be the one to navigate. But AI is just so great about holding your hand through those experiences.
All right, we got a couple more moments. Do we have any additional questions? I've been perusing the chat. Casey, I think you've gotten them all.
I think so.
Yeah, I think because we were able to get some while you were
May I ask
Absolutely.
a question?
Oh, it froze again,
It's
Michelle.
froze again,
Using,
Michelle. You're frozen again. No. Michelle, try to type it.
Yeah, it's frozen this time. Oh, she's back. Okay, formatting the paper, thank you so much. What about the ethics involved in using AI? Yeah, and so those groups I listed, they are heavily involved in that stuff too. Ethics in AI is something that I would say more than it was initially, becoming more and more of a hot button topic, only because like we pounding the pavement about it, right? I'm gonna share a story that's I think just important for us to know. ChatGPT has absolutely revolutionized the speed at which bots can be built today by Priceline and all of them, right? But let me tell y'all something. In 2022, I want to say November of 2022, the ChatGPT we know today was not even out on the market yet. What they did was they sent all the gnarly, nasty, disgusting, despicable things that could come from the four corners of the internet to Kenya for people to go through all of that stuff and label it as something to train the AI, right? Because it's not behaving this way without somebody teaching it what to say and what to never say, right? They were paying people less than $2 an hour to go through the nasty, gnarly, ugly. I mean, it was images, videos, like, because that stuff exists out there somewhere, right? And they very cheaply did what we benefit from today, and it ruined people's lives. You had people going home wanting to commit suicide. You had people dealing with mental health crises that they did not have therapists there to deal with. They would ask every day, can I have because some of the stuff I saw, and it was the stories they had to read just to tag it right. Because you can just say no, you had to explain why, you had to explain what it was, and this is right. So this thing that we I'm not going to say enjoy, but that we leverage today, and the way that we leverage it, it has come at a huge cost to people. And so this ethics question is big. It is important. I don't know why this story about how we got here, because they finished it up in November, and by January it had skyrocketed everywhere, and they had billions of dollars in investments, right? But yeah, it's a big one. It's a lot of work to be done. And I would say that's the other side of building AI. You have to, when I say we're training Big Mama's intelligence, like there's a lot of data that's gonna have to go in that, and there's gonna be a lot of stuff we have to teach it never to say that it might think it should say from certain places about Black folk, right? So yeah, we're building it. That's all I can say. We're still in the builder's market, and it's gonna be a lot of roads we have to traverse that are not easy yet, but we'll get it there.
Thank you for sharing that, Casey, because it does give context to the evolution that has to continue. Like that practice has to continue someplace, somewhere. And so is it that this shift into AI is now going to increase the need for mental health and mental wellness from individuals?
Wow.
Because individuals will now have to route to jobs that teach AI to be more human. And being more human means teaching it that those things are harmful to children and children of a certain age. And so, that was one of my questions around the regulation of AI and the thought process that, and that's going to affect, those are going to be low paying jobs, to your point. Kenya, less than $2 per hour. So those are going to be Black and brown people who are going to route to those types of jobs.
That's right.
Right? Those are going to be Black and brown people who aren't going to be able to have the type of health care needed to circumvent what they will be truly involved with and engrossed in because of this new job that they will have to have. So just like as a business owner, just listening to your stories and thinking about it, I think it's important for us to understand AI as business owners, but also to understand what enjoying this new revelation of technology can do. And it's not gonna stop. It's not like it's okay, we did that, check, let's go.
Right.
That GPT, I imagine, has to continue to do that.
Yes. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why when it came out after that November experience, it was only good through 2017, right? Because they had to have real people scrub the historical stuff. They hadn't had the bet, right? But I think to your point, right, and I want us to all sit in this soberly, right? Because this is an opportunity, but it's also a responsibility that we have for our people. There are going to be things that we have to wrestle with, period. Right? As I train B, right? I'm going to have to be thoughtful about when juniors come in or interns, right? Because we need it to work. I need it to work because I can't have folk depending on case studies about Donald Trump and Warren Buffett all day. Who understands that, right? Like we didn't have $300,000 that our granddaddy gave us, like Jeff Bezos, right? So I need to build it, right? But it will make me have better conversations about my margins, right? I can't build it as cheaply as him over here because I got to pay my folk, right? And I'm okay. Am I okay with that? Right? Am I okay with having less of a high margin because I choose to give people livable wages? Am I okay to grow 2 times as slowly as them? Because I want my people to sustain. I want us to arrive there and like who we are when we get there, right? I want our families intact, right? We're gonna have to wrestle with some things. That don't mean you don't go, right? We got to go, but just have that sober mindedness around the fact that it is not a check the box exercise. Not that we're gonna do it equitably, right? People ask me when I was talking to investors around Blaze, they ask me all the time, like, oh, well, this is gonna be very valuable to the rest of the market. And I said, y'all ain't exploiting my community. Y'all it ain't no amount of money you can pay me to extract from our community. You can deposit, but you ain't exploiting us, right? We're gonna have to wrestle with some things, and every no that resulted in, I'm okay with. I sleep very well at night.
Gosh dang. Gosh dang. You know what Black mamas do. We go between checking homework and taking notes for ourselves through the day. So I know I was off camera a little bit earlier, but I was here for every single word and was immensely blessed to have my daughters listen to every single word in the background. And Casey, on behalf of our chapter of National Black MBA, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your commitment to Black people and Black businesses and the understanding that we need to have, not that we should have, but the understanding that we need to have in this day of AI. What I heard you say is embracing it is a requirement in order for us to move forward, not just in this world and business, but just in this lifetime. And so it is important for us to understand the weapon so that we can use the weapon in the way that works for us. And I am immensely thankful for your time this evening. Thank you so much for the questions and the chat and everything that was shared this evening on this Wednesday. Thank you all and have an amazing night. Ashe.
Good night.
Good night.
Ooh, my God. Black people are amazing. Good night.
Thank you so much, Shay.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for holding space for us.
Thank
I
you for
was
holding
like,
space for me.
like
Y'all let me in
chatting with
y'all's
the, I was
house.
like chatting with the president, and it's like so much stuff
Yes.
going on, but I am so excited. I instantly connected with you on LinkedIn, and
Awesome.
I am excited to stay connected with you.
Likewise.
I am someone who wrote my master's capstone 13 years ago on
Mhm.
virtual learning. What we're
Come
doing,
on, sis.
what we're doing right now, what they couldn't figure out when we went to
Yeah.
COVID, I advocated for myself, this 13-year-old child who was a preemie. My school was
Mhm.
like, we can't do that. I said, why not? If I
Say
can tell
that.
you how to do it.
Say that.
So this conversation around AI and the importance of it, I love the analogy of this as a weapon.
Shay.
And this being a weapon that we need to hold space for and understand and be able to use. So I love it. I'm gonna be asking all kinds of questions about B. I got questions. I'm so excited.
Thank you, sis. And I mean it, Shay. Like honestly, when I came in on the camera, like I felt your energy. Like you feel like
Same,
family, you know.
same,
And
same.
I know these folk are in good hands with you. So just thank you for even the things you don't speak about that's on your back.
Thank
Thank
you. I
you.
receive that. I receive that. Truly, I receive that. Thank you so much. Happy
You're
New
welcome.
Year.
Happy New Year, and I'm excited to be
Yeah.
in touch and connected.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
All right.
excited. All
Take
right, be
care.
well.
Bye.
Bye.